Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Edens, a finance coach, author, and wealth mindset researcher. And this is part two of a mini series that I'm doing on what to do if you have an emergency expense come up and you have $0 in savings, which is 22% of American adults, according to a 2023 Bankrate survey. And for part one, you can check out the description box. I'll link to my video there. I also have these over on my blog, and so you can read these articles, and I've got a bunch of links there as well for you with resources for charities and nonprofits that you can reach out to that you may be eligible to receive some emergency relief and financial assistance in a pinch as well. So I'll link to all of those on my blog too. All right, so here's four more things that you can do if you hit an emergency expense and you have $0 in savings. So number one is you can ask about a payment plan or an extension. So most of the companies that you will get bills from throughout your life, whether that's a healthcare bill, an auto repair, a veterinary bill, you name it, most of these big bills will have some kind of payment option where you can pay over time. So all you need to do is just reach out to the company that you got the bill from and just explain your situation, that you don't have the money to pay it right now, but it's your intent to pay the bill in full when you can. And then just work on negotiating a payment plan with them. That usually comes with an interest rate on it. Some of them are interest free though, so it just depends on the company. So just reach out to them and see what your situation is and what you can negotiate out, so that rather than having to pay the entire thing in one lump sum and maybe take out a loan to do that, you can just negotiate it out and put it on a payment plan that's going to be more reasonable for your budget. So that's a really good option, and one that a lot of companies already pretty much expect people to reach back out to them about. And so something to look into for you there, just to take the stress out of a big emergency expense. Number two is to consider selling some of your belongings. So you might want to leave this one to last. I don't know that this one is one any of us want to opt for, but there are a lot of different routes that you can take to be able to sell some of your belongings that might be worth a little bit more money. And that is something you can look into. So you can either sell them on an online marketplace, or you can sell them through a consignment store. So whichever one suits you better. Consignment stores will often take a percentage of the sale. So you're going to make, most likely you're going to make more selling it yourself. You just need to keep in mind to get a reputable form of payment, usually something like Venmo, that's a verified form of payment. When someone's paying you, so you don't have to worry about selling something to someone and then having them write you a check. And then where were we? Okay, so we were talking about selling your belongings. So that's really not something that you want to opt for as a first line of ways to raise money for an unexpected expense. You probably want to go other routes as well. But that is a way to think about. Typically things that'll raise the most money if you're selling them, things like jewelry, watches, if you have like a handbag that's by a label that resells well. Same thing for clothes with designer labels, for example. And then any kind of sports gear, musical instruments, things like that. And you might want to take any of that to an appraiser and have it appraised first, so that you don't accidentally sell it for like a lot less than it's worth. And so that's important to think through, as well as don't underprice your items either when you're reselling them. But that can just be a way to raise some money quickly if you need to, as long as you can sell it in a way that you get a verified form of payment for it and you're protecting your safety and your privacy while you're in that online marketplace space, and making sure that you're thinking of your safety that way while you're negotiating with potential buyers for your items. So always important to think about as well. Number three is to find out if you qualify for assistance from nonprofit and federal relief organizations. So there's a whole host of these. I will link to a bunch of them in the description, and also in a blog post that I'll link to that's got lots and lots of resources for you along these lines as well. But depending on your situation, you might be very eligible for financial assistance from a number of different organizations, just kind of depending on the situation. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that you can reach out for help that way. And again, I'll link to all of that, not all of them by any means, but some of the major nonprofits, federal relief organizations, and also some relief organizations that are specifically geared towards military members, their families, military veterans, things like that, so that you've got those to reference preference as well. And then number 4 is you can consider doing some freelance work. So if none of these other things really appeal to you and you just need to raise some money quickly, you can look at doing freelance work. And I've linked to some of these in the description and also in my blog post, which I'll link to. But companies like Upwork, Freelancer, Uber, Favor Delivery, and DoorDash are all places that you can do work for pretty quickly in the gig economy and be able to raise some extra money that way to be able to fund an extra bill. So that might be something to think about too, if the idea of selling your belongings or taking out a loan, or like I talked about in my previous video, maybe borrowing from family and friends, doesn't really appeal and all you want to do is just go make some more money really quick, then doing some freelance work for one of those companies, or there's like many different freelance companies that can hire you to do things from, graphic design to home maintenance projects, to, like we said, food delivery, driving for Uber, all kinds of stuff. So again, like I said in my previous video too, which I'll link to in the description, the key is really to be creative, to be flexible, to be innovative, and then to work on your budgeting skills so that in the future, if you have an emergency expense of a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s, you're like, no problem, I've got emergency savings, that's what that's for. And so that you just don't have to worry about that when that happens, because it definitely happens to all of us at one point or another. The car breaks down and needs a big expensive repair, or something on the house breaks and needs a big repair. You have an unexpected copay on your health insurance that has to be paid. Your vet has to go to the emergency vet. Lately, that's been the one that we've been noticing the most, unfortunately, to the point where I've given the pets a line item in our budget just for like pet health care expenses, because as they've gotten older, they've had to be at the vet a lot more and made a couple more trips than normal to the emergency vet. And that can really start to rack up really quickly. Anything with the word emergency room in it, just whether it's for you, your children, your pets, it just starts to get very pricey very quickly. And so just knowing that you're prepared for those kind of things in the future will really give you great peace of mind. But if you don't have money right now, don't despair. And there is a lot you can do to start working on your budgeting skills, start putting more in savings, and also learn how to make more money. I have some videos on that as well that I'll link to in the description that have even more ideas about kind of that freelance work. And other ways to quickly make more money if you need to, or just to start gradually building your income over time. If your current income isn't enough to save anything out of, just because you're really spending all of your current income on your housing and groceries and medical expenses and insurance and things like that, maybe you just need to figure out how to up your income a little bit or up your income a lot. So I've got lots of ideas for you as well there. Thank you so much for joining me today for this video. Let me know in the comments what you like to do in terms of being prepared for an emergency expense, and any tips and tricks that you could share with our community here. And I am so happy that you've chosen to join me, and I will see you again soon in my next video.